Welcome back. In this video, we're going to go ahead and attack the lower part of the leg there, add muscle to the calf, the shin area, get the ankles proportionate to the rest of the body, fix the initial pass on the calf muscles here that were added as we worked the knee for the thigh muscles there. We're also going to make sure that we are checking back with our image planes to make sure that our volumes and positions of those landmarks is correct. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start. We can see that we've got lumpy bumpy muscles back here so far. We're simply adding the volumes of the large muscle groups at this point. So we've got a shin bone. We want to make sure that we've got accurate bone structures in place before we continue, because that is the landmark for adding muscle. So let's just double check our ankles, the location of our ankles. We know that the ankle on the outside is lower and rounder than the one on the inside typically. So we're going to make sure to check the position of those. And it appears that we've got it generally correct. We have very large volume here for the heel. So we're going to trim that out a little bit and identify the bones in the structure of the knee here so that we can be confident about those going forward. Now, if you take a look at your reference, and I hope everybody has solid reference, in previous videos I've recommended you to go ahead and Google Scott Eaton, for example. So he provides some excellent anatomy reference on his website, this being the sculpt that was used for his app for the iPhone, and I believe is also being published for the PC. Had a version for Android, but the website got hacked and is still restoring that. So here he provides a version of this this sculpture in a number of different poses with both extended limbs and the contrapposto pose on the legs, so that you can see a little bit how the limbs deform as the weight shifts and the muscles extend and flex. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember, there you can access those without minimizing your ZBrush stage here. So use the see-through when you want to, when you can. All right, so let's take a look at the bony landmarks, and I'm just going to dial down my brush size so that I can just quickly indicate where those landmarks are. Here we have a nice ridge on the top of our kneecap there. It's more of a square shape normally, but you do have a bone structure right at the bottom of that shape also. On the side, we see the knots of the upper leg bone as well as the bottom leg bone, fairly visible from both sides. We're going to talk about how the sinewy tissues come down over those bones in certain areas, but you definitely want to make sure that they're visible as they normally would be. These are a little too visible, but we'll work those into our sculpt overall as we continue. Shin is not straight. You want to make sure to accurately represent the shin, and there's a little bit of a curvature to that, so make sure that you are grasping that. The inside portion of that bone is more detectable on the surface of your anatomy, and in fact it should go right on back where it actually you can see the ankle there. So maybe not that much of a curvature because we don't have our volume leaned out back there yet, but when we get that, it's going to come down and around. You're going to be able to see that ankle protrude. So let's work on the volumes. I'm going to go ahead and get the damn standard brush so I can carve nice and deep into this area. We're going to define where that shin bone actually is. The muscles attached around that. I'm going to get a little smoother here and maybe a little larger, deeper. I'd like to try to capture that as much as possible in one swoop so that it's a little bit more fluid. Sometimes I just am not able to quite get that the way that I want it, but get a start on that. Also, make sure that you preserve the wrap around the muscle on the interior there. That's really critical to make sure that you preserve that as the muscles wrap down and around that area there. And you've got the lower leg muscles coming into play there. Alright, so I've got volumes in there, I've got some lines, and I need to push and pull that around a little bit and shape that up. Then we can work on the outside of the leg just a little bit. So I'm going to get the move tool here and a little bit bigger brush size. Got some lumps back here that don't make sense, so we're going to tackle those first. I'm just pushing those into where they should be. It's got quite large. We know that we have nice slender lower leg back here. Okay, and you can dial that brush size down as you go. You get a tighter representation of what you want there. Alright, let's continue to pivot. Let's make sure that we are correcting all of what we have here, and then making sure that you continue to smooth so that the light is casting over those shapes nicely. We've got a really deep groove in here we're going to release. I'm going to step down my divisions here so I get a good pass on that. And I'm just going to pull that out a little bit. It should be a little more flat as those two areas come together. Just continue to smooth as you go. Alright, back to the move button. I'm going to thin these ankles out nicely. I might go too far to start with, but I do need to put some additives on there to capture that accurately. Okay. A little bit better as we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and get a few more larger shapes in here. Go ahead and dig right around that ankle a little bit. And on the outside as well. And we're starting to see a little bit more of that heel. We want to stay nice and low with those divot areas there, though. They are fairly low. The heel is a lot more flat than you may think it to be. Alright, and we're going to do a little bit more. Just pull this out just a little bit more, get a little flat. Nice strong muscle tissue back here. Gets a little lumpy bumpy, just go ahead and smooth it out. That's a little bit more the shape that I'm looking for. And my feet are not flat on the ground. Feet are not flat, so don't take a brush and deliberately flatten them out, even though they will appear that way when you get them in the game engine if you're going to be barefoot. But you simply want to keep the shape that they actually are. Okay. And work that shape forward as we get to the toe. Alright, now the bone does come in toward there, so it's not, it'll show at the bottom there, but we actually don't see the ridge of the bone on the outside here. So we're going to go ahead and bury that up in there. Just a little bit. Smoothing it out. That's a little bit better. The inside there. And I'm going to pull that up a little bit. Alright, there are a lot of small muscles. So as we work our way out, I'm going to go ahead and use one of my favorite tools, and that is the dam standard again, just to define where these muscles should be and redefine in some cases. This one's coming too far forward. So in the side view, I'm just going to make my markings. And this muscle comes down. There's a little one in there. This one comes down and around. You get this. Practice your stroke so you get the stroke that you want. There's a nice knot of roll of muscle right in here. It's going to come into play. Okay. And we've got another one here. So it actually plays on this particular tendon and comes down and around. And then we see that kind of coming down and around the ankle there. Alright, now we've got a nice heftier muscle right in the front there we want to portray. Comes down, it's got a nice curve here. Maybe thin this out a little bit more so we can get a nice curve in here, and then comes down and around the front of the leg there. Okay, even more so. Here we go. A little too low. We'll do it one more time. I like that sharp turn there. Try it from the bottom up. Maybe I'm out of warlock. It's right about here is where I want to stop. And I want a nice arch over here. So now, that's the area right there that's giving me a little trouble. Come up and come around. Alright, that's a little bit nicer. And then that one actually comes down. You've got some sinewy tissues there. It starts way up here. Comes down and around the front. Nice full muscle. Not right on the bone, but right in front of it there. So it softens the very front of the lower leg there. Alright, so I'm getting my outlines in there. I want to be careful not to lose those. I've got several. One in particular that comes down and through here. A couple of smaller ones in here, so I'll go ahead and indicate those while I'm here. And then once we get our foot shaped up, we will draw those down into that area as well. Alright, so I've got my volumes and my lines indicated, but of course the proportions are off. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and get my move tool again and step back away from the work that I've done so far. Just draw back. And I'm going to check my proportions first, the silhouette. So turning on the floor, I can get my silhouette up here. My ankles are narrow enough. I'm going to check the location of my knees. My knees seem a little bit low, so I'm going to draw those up and fill that out just a little bit. And then I can pay attention to capturing the silhouette here again. So nice big brush because we're moving a large area here, and I'm going to go with lots of intensity and watch the outline of my brush so I don't make large creases where I don't want them. So right about here you can see the angle of my kneecap there. It's about where I want my kneecap to be. I'm going to draw up just a little bit more in the back to fill out my muscle tissue here and give myself a little bit more robust lower leg here. And now I can go in and correct, dialing down my brush size, go in and correct the volumes of these muscles here. That one's not shaped like that. Turning and twisting and making sure that you're taking care of all the muscles as we go forward. Okay, it's better. Notice the inside of my knee didn't follow as much as I wanted to on the outside of the knee, so I'm going to correct for that now. Okay, bringing that up. Notice that the inside curvature of that is lower than the outside. This is looking a lot more like how I want it now. I don't want to pull that large muscle up though. I just want to get these into place here. Leave that nice and full. Alright, nice and full. These need to come up a little bit. Good. Alright, much more the way that I want that. I've gone a little lean on the ankles. I don't want that. Quite that lean. Don't want to weaken the look of the leg. Okay. Just continuing to polish that the way that I want it. Alright, I don't necessarily like the look of this area quite yet, so I'm just going to continue to work on that. Get that right where I want it to be. Good. Alright. Freshen that up just a little bit, give it the shape I want it. And I'll probably go in after that divot right there. Go ahead and release that area just a little bit. Notice I'm checking in the 3/4 view as well. That is a view that we don't normally have in image planes, but it is absolutely critical for making sure that you're getting good form in 3 dimensions. So pay attention to it. Make sure that you are not collapsing your form, taking on a shape that you don't want. It's really imperative for the face, because if you don't have a 3/4 for reference, you can oftentimes lose the bone structure around the eye and the cheekbone. Or you could be far too strong with that area. So make sure you're rotating around your model using your critical artistic eye to ensure that you are getting good shape. You can see that this went flat on me. Don't like it. So I'm going to get in there and pull that out a little bit. Make sure that's not flattened down like that. Alright, better. Yeah, alright, now I'm just going to soften these bone structures in here just a little bit so that they don't draw so much attention. There we go. Alright, let's take a good look all around. Lower legs are looking a lot better now for the first pass. Got a long way to go with them, but I think we're heading in the right direction. Alright, I'm going to end this video. We'll come back and we will look at the arms and then the face, and likely we'll spend a little time on the hands and the feet. Thank you for joining me.